So much for joining this critical event at the White House on improving student academic success. My name is Neera Tandon. I'm chair of the Domestic Policy Council, and I'm really thrilled that we're hosting this event here. As we start the new year and a new semester, President Biden is laser focused on ensuring that every child in every school is succeeding. Simply put, nothing is more important to our future as a country than whether our children are equipped to compete in the 21st century. And that is why today is so important, because as an administration, we are laying out an agenda for student academic success for every single school in the country. And we'll employ every tool in our toolbox to ensure schools can adopt these strategies. We want to be great partners with them. While our students and schools have been through a lot these last few years, it is all the more urgent that states and school districts provide a high-quality education to every single child so that students are learning at least on grade level every grade. The basic fact is schools and school systems are responsible for improving student achievement, but we at the federal government can be a partner to promote success, and that's what we're here to do today. Today, we're announcing a strategy based on hard evidence. Our new agenda for student achievement is focused on 3 strategies: reducing absenteeism, increasing access to intensive tutoring, and expanding after-school and summer learning programs. First, on absenteeism, we need to make sure every student is in school, because kids can't learn if they're not in school. The most recent data shows that rates of chronic absenteeism were more than double last year compared to the 2018-2019 school year. Absenteeism can account for up to 27% of the test score declines in math we've seen, and 45% of the test score declines in reading, respectively. We know that from the Council of Economic Advisors and deep research they've done. The truth is, we simply cannot accept chronic absenteeism as the new normal. Fortunately, we know what works: engaging parents and families as partners in their children's education. And that includes meeting families at home to find solutions to transportation challenges and other services they need, sending text messages and letters to parents about children's missed school, which can lower absenteeism by more than 15%. To help schools and communities get back in the classroom, we are providing a detailed roadmap for states to strengthen school accountability and ensure that they have real attendance gains. We all need to send a clear and consistent message: students have to be present if they're going to learn. Second, intensive tutoring is a proven step that we know can help regain lost ground quickly. 1 year with a well-trained tutor in school at least 3 times a week can help a student gain an additional 1.5 years worth of math. That's high impact. And this is not just in the laboratory. We see big school systems in Chicago, Baltimore, Greensboro. They're all tutoring thousands of students and getting real results. And finally, we need to give students more time to learn beyond the regular school day, including during summer school and after school. Consistently participating in strong after-school program and summer school can build daily teaching and learning lessons in the classroom. It can add also about 4 months of learning in a year. And there's no better time to start extending time than this summer. So this is an agenda that has proven strategies that will work. And today we're also announcing with the Department of Education that they will use every tool that they can to ensure schools adopt these strategies for academic success. First, many states have unused resources from the President's American Rescue Plan, and the department is providing flexibility to use those resources for summer programs or tutoring and home visits, not only this school year, but also next year. Second, the department is stepping up to use the Every Student Succeeds Act to hold states accountable for honoring their requirements of the law and their responsibility to implement evidence-based strategies for struggling schools. And third, they're tailoring future grants and support to promote those proven strategies. Taken together, the federal government is supporting states and school systems to do work for student success. This is a high priority for the Biden-Harris administration, and I'm really excited by all the work the department is doing. We know that every school can implement these strategies, and some schools already are doing so. Gompers Elementary School, Middle School District in Detroit is just an example. The school was struggling with chronic absenteeism in the wake of the pandemic, but a sixth grader named Josh J. Sean had missed 4 days of classes by the end of October 2022. Students were missing school all across the class, but the school sprang into action. The school brought staff to support families. They engaged parents, mentors visited the home. The whole family, Jay Sean's whole family understood the school was invested in his success, and they were invested in his success as well. At the end of the school year, the school had reduced chronic absenteeism by 18 points, a remarkable achievement. So we know these steps work, and now it's just our opportunity to ensure that we are doing everything we can. Because as the president likes to say, what defines America is possibilities. Every child's potential will define the possibility of our country's future. And schools play a critical part ensuring that each child can reach her potential. Today, you will hear from governors and state education leaders who are committed to implementing our agenda for improving student achievement. I'm really looking forward to the discussion, but first, it's my honor to turn this over to my friend, a tremendous champion for our nation's students and for learning across the board, Secretary Miguel Cardona.
Thank you very much, Neera. Thank you, and thank you to all of you who are here today and those who are watching online. I appreciate your leadership here, Neera. What all of you heard loud and clear from Neera was this administration's urgency around tackling challenges we face in education today, and our firm resolve to accelerate academic achievement for every student in our nation. I've said it before and I'll say it again. This is a moment of truth in education in our country. Are we gonna raise the bar, or are we gonna return to the status quo? It's a moment of big challenges, coming out of a pandemic that profoundly disrupted education here and all over the world. But it's also a moment of an immense opportunity to step up together and say that we're not satisfied with our status quo, that we need to do better. Our nation's students deserve better, not the same as what they were getting before the pandemic. I said it before that it requires us to collectively raise the bar in areas from academic excellence to mental health to college and career pathways. That's something that I deeply believe in. Not only as your Secretary of Education, but of a parent of 2 children. One who recently graduated from public school and another who's currently a senior in a high school. I saw firsthand how the disruption of the pandemic affected their education and their well-being. And I, like so many other parents across the country that I've heard from in the visits to over 46 states and territories, are worried about whether they could recover their crucial learning and maintain their readiness for college and career, all while continuing to develop socially and feel connected to their peers and to their school community. That's why we at the Biden-Harris administration and the Department of Education have fought hard for investments in student success and academic recovery, beginning with the $130 billion in the American Rescue Plan that was delivered months after the president took office. We fought to make sure students got the support they needed for their reading skills. Earlier this year, we delivered $50 million in new grant funding for literacy interventions. We must improve reading performance in this country. We fought for resources to step up math, literacy, and science instruction. And last month, we delivered with $277 million in new awards for education, innovation, and research, which will allow for new innovative approaches to student support. We continue to invest in strengthening the conditions that make learning possible for all students, like addressing the mental health needs of our young people through school-based supports and investing in teachers and developing educators to deliver high-quality instruction. We're supporting our focus on high-quality core instruction with 3 strategies for academic acceleration, strategies that are working around the country, reducing absenteeism by giving parents better information, helping families overcome whatever challenges are obstacles. Summer school and expanded learning time, when teachers can give students the extra help they need to get the results they want and they deserve. And providing trained tutors who work individually or in very small groups with students during the school day several times a week. And let me say, this is in addition to ensuring that we have high quality and supported teachers in every classroom in our country. This is not either or, this is both. These three strategies have one central goal: giving students more time and more support to succeed. We'll use all the tools at our disposal to advance these three pillars: directing grants, providing technical assistance, and yes, holding states accountable for meeting their responsibilities under the Every Student Succeeds Act. There must be equal parts support and accountability to get the best for our children. We must get back to pre-pandemic levels quickly, but also let's be clear. The bare minimum that we aspire to is to get back to what it was in 2019. 2019 data wasn't anything to write home about. Our kids deserve better. Declining and persistent achievement gaps were a reality long before the pandemic. By coming together today, we're saying we won't be satisfied with returning to the status quo that wasn't working. Recovery is not the goal. Excellence for all students is the goal. We'll meet the bar and we'll raise the bar. So today I'm here to listen to what you have to say, and I'm here to invite all state, local, and education leaders to step up. I'm here to look at ways we can strengthen our partnership so you have what you need to accelerate academic achievement in your states. To my colleagues in leadership, governors, mayors, state leaders, in your state of the state or state of the city speeches, if it doesn't include bold strategies in education, we're missing an opportunity. But I know that together, we can meet this moment of truth in education with the immense urgency it demands and the bold actions it requires. I've always said for the last 2.5 years we fought COVID. Now and in the future, let's fight complacency. We need all hands on deck. This is our moment to act. Together, we can transform education for the better, and we will. So thank you. I'll turn it back over to you, Neera.
Thank you so much, Secretary Cardona, for your leadership on these issues and for those words. And now it's my great honor to turn it over to Governor Phil Murphy from the great state of New Jersey to speak about his efforts on education. And he's just a tremendous partner, and we're grateful that he's here.
Neera, thank you. Greetings from the Garden State and the brick city of Newark, New Jersey. I want to thank Neera and her colleagues on the Domestic Policy Council. Neera and I go way back, and I'm honored to be with you today. Secretary Cardona, same to you and your colleagues at the Department of Education, and thank you both for hosting this vitally important conversation. As Neera knows, I tried like heck to be there in person, and further wanted to spend more time on the screen with you than I have today, but I hope we can be together in person soon. So here in Jersey, I am honored to say that we have one of the best public education systems in the nation. And that is a reputation that we have earned first and foremost, thanks to the talent and dedication of our amazing educators. And importantly, it is a reputation that we have to maintain and that we are maintaining by making historic investments into our entire education system in every school and every school district, evenly and equitably. And that's exactly why the academic acceleration agenda that the White House released today is so important. I thank the President and Vice President for their leadership on this as well. It is a blueprint, as you've heard just already, for eliminating longstanding inequities in our education system and ensuring that every child, not just most, but every child receives the support they need to reach their full potential. And I'm proud to report that New Jersey is making important progress in the very strategies outlined in the academic acceleration agenda. For instance, last year, our state launched a high-impact tutoring program to help fund intensive tutoring interventions for students disproportionately impacted by the pandemic. This past fall, as part of this effort, our Department of Education awarded more than $40 million in grant awards to nearly 245 school districts. By reference, we have just over 600 school districts, and we'll be awarding a second round of grants soon. Additionally, when it comes to improving student attendance, our state is also building upon legislation that I first signed way back in 2018 to combat chronic absenteeism in our schools. Just this past summer, our state's Department of Education released new guidance to school districts for addressing barriers to regular attendance. And in that spirit, many of our districts have started using research-supported interventions in communities like Camden and in counties like Hudson County to boost attendance rates. And we're also taking steps to help our students avoid that famous, or infamous, I should say, summer slide, and using American Rescue Plan funds, thank you very much, to expand evidence-based summer activities in our schools. And then finally, in order to continue providing the best possible education to our state's precious children, we are also updating our academic learning standards in New Jersey. Just last week, I gave my annual State of the State address, and therein I announced that we will soon be rolling out new initiatives in school districts up and down the Garden State to improve literacy rates among our children by teaching them the fundamentals of reading. So I am thrilled, on the one hand, with the progress we're making and will continue to make in New Jersey. We could not do it without the Biden-Harris administration, and I thank both the Secretary and Neera for their specific support. And I want to give a shout out. I see Governor Michelle Lujan Grisham's name up on the screen, and I'm told Governor Westmore will be with you. I know they're taking similar steps to ensure that we set up our children, not just in Jersey, but across the country, for lifelong success. With that, thank you for having me. I'm honored and humbled to be with you. I wish you well, and I apologize for doing this remotely and having to sneak off.
Thank you very much, Governor Murphy, for being here with us, but more importantly, for your passion for education. I've been fortunate to be able to have conversations with you, and the children in Jersey are lucky to have your leadership. Thank you for following up on what you want to do in education in New Jersey. I really appreciate that. Thank you for joining us.
Thanks so much.
Thanks, Mr. Secretary. Thanks, Neera.
Thank you. And now it's my pleasure to introduce a graduate from Valley Forge Military Academy, and a former Army member, but what he's going to talk about today is focused more on education. He stood up Maryland's tutoring corps. Really proud to introduce Governor Westmore from the state of Maryland. Governor?
Thank you so much, and good afternoon, everybody. It is an honor to be on this panel, and it's an honor to join you. And Secretary Cardona and Director Tenon, it's a joy to be able to have you all as not only partners inside this work, but true guides. It's very humbling to be a governor in the country right now, because it is just so unbelievably clear that we have education champions in the president and the vice president. And the reason we also know that they are education champions is because of who they surround themselves with. That this is a full administration that is all hands on deck in making sure that our children are protected and supported. And so to be your partner in this, it's humbling, and we're grateful. It's wonderful to be on this panel, and I see Governor Lujan Grisham on the screen, and also Governor Murphy. How you doing? It's wonderful to be with my colleagues as well, and people who I learn from consistently. And we're excited because we know that today it's both a celebration of this next chapter and the work we have to get done. It's an acknowledgement of how much more we still have to get done. But frankly, I think about the progress that has been made in Maryland, in New Mexico, New Jersey, and around the country, and it's just very obvious that we have all the tools that we need to actually make this a very powerful moment, where a lot of the longstanding challenges that communities have faced, that these are things that we can actually focus on and have real momentum on. And I think about this idea of student achievement and why that matters is, I think one thing that we all collectively know and remember is that student achievement is never just exclusively going to be a conversation around curriculum. Student achievement is never exclusively going to be a conversation around test scores. It's never exclusively going to be a conversation about inputs and outputs. When we're talking about student achievement, it means meeting students where they are and preparing them for the world that they are going to inherit, where the best thing you can do to support a child is by making sure that child is coming up in a strong, supportive home. The best thing you can do to have a strong, supportive home is making sure that home exists in a strong, supportive community. The best thing you can do a community is making sure that community has anchor institutions that serve as real platforms for excellence within that community, within that neighborhood. And oftentimes, those centers for excellence, there are schools. They are the foundations of not just what happens inside for that child when they're in that classroom, but frankly, what it means for the entire family to be able to lean on the resources that school then turns out and provides. And I think about where we are in the state of Maryland, where, we know there are real obstacles we still have to address. We know that, in Maryland, when you talk about absenteeism, as Governor Murphy was mentioning before, that in Maryland alone, that we have an absenteeism rate that hovers around 28%. And how to address that means thinking about it holistically. That we need to invest in tutoring. We need to invest in making sure there's more time on task for our students, and that there's more people who are investing in time on task for that student in addition to their teacher, because we should not have students who are still sitting in 2 and 3 grades behind when it comes to math and reading. It becomes much more expensive to rehabilitate than to try to take the initial training and do that on the cheap. And we know we have to support our after-school programs because we know right now that supply is not meeting the demand. So in Maryland, we've chosen to move in partnership because it's the only way we're going to be able to make results actually happen. And in this, we've already made progress. As the Secretary mentioned, this past October, our State Department of Education unveiled a monumental $28 million investment in the Maryland Tutoring Corps grant program to ensure that we can provide those resources to students and to educational institutions all throughout the state of Maryland. We anticipate that this investment will help over 80,000 middle school and high school students to get their math scores up. And this was funded through the Biden administration. Everything that is happening right now, when you're looking at the fact that we talk about 80,000 students who are benefiting, those 80,000 students, had it not been for the work of this administration, would not have that resource. And so I come here not just to say thank you, but we want to show you that this can be the model of how to put this to work. We want the Maryland Tutoring Corps to set the pace for the rest of the country, because we know that if we can invest in our tutors and we can invest in people that can increase time on task for our students, you're going to invest in that student's long-term prospects and long-term opportunities. I'm also proud of the fact that just recently, just a few months ago, Maryland became the first state in this country that now has a service year option for all of our high school graduates. And for each high school graduate, they now have a chance to have a year of service to the state of Maryland. And many of them are choosing education as the place that they want to focus their year of service. And we did it because we are big believers in experiential learning. We did it because we are big believers in an earned financial cushion for people that can and are willing to do the work. We did it because this has become a tremendous workforce development tool where we are encouraging people that as they're doing their year of service, and the ones who are doing the year of service in education, we want them to expose them to them early so they can stay in education. And we also do it because we know that in this time of political divisiveness and political vitriol that we continue to see, that service will save us. That we need to be a state that gets to know each other again. We need to be a state that believes in each other again. And we need a state that actually invests and says we can do big things because we're going to actually get big things done together. So we've made big strides. We do not plan on slowing down. We're excited to work for years and years to come with this administration. And we're grateful for all the work and the partnership to be able to see, as the Secretary said, see every child for the promise that they are.
Thank you so much, Governor Moore.
Thank you.
Really excited to have you here and appreciate what you're doing in your state. And now I'll turn it over to Governor Michelle Lujan Grisham from the great state of New Mexico. She's a great friend, very focused on improving outcomes for children. Governor Lujan Grisham. Governor Grisham, can you hear me?
Can.
The floor is yours.
Well, we couldn't hear the roundup. I really wanted to make sure that Governor Moore said something nice about me before you introduced me, and now I'll just have to assume that he did.
He did.
I want to absolutely echo my colleagues. I want to thank the Biden-Harris administration, White House experts, certainly Secretary Cardona, for leaning into really accelerating the evidence-based practices that are not only funded by this administration, but the sort of coaching and support to states is critical. I'm going to take a little bit different approach, but before I do, I want to echo. We are in a terrible, frankly, position with chronic absenteeism. And I am embarrassed, but it is true nonetheless that high schools and mid schools are not just our only problems. We're beginning to see troubling patterns even in elementary school. So if we've got a family who's having trouble with an older student, you can see it spill over to making sure that we're getting our kiddos to school and the education and the services that they need. And we are also deploying any number of activities to not only get kids to school, meet that requirement and mandate, I'm going to come back to that, but also do the work so that school is beneficial, that kids are feeling supported, that if you aren't reading at grade level and you can't do math at grade level, it is not a place you want to be. So we have to do both. We're going to make sure that we're meeting our requirements and our mandates, but we have to make our classrooms a place of joy and learning, and our kiddos need to make sure that they have the tools in place to be at or above grade level. So we're doing three particular things, and you've talked about those with the governor so far. So it should be promising to Americans that we're really clear about the stuff that works in schools. So we were doing extended learning in the schools early certainly in my administration. We advanced hundreds of millions of dollars into extended learning in 2020. Our issue with extended learning isn't that schools that are doing extended learning in New Mexico are seeing double-digit increases in proficiency and school academic performance measures at all levels. We also put additional money into community schools and before and after school programs. And again, hundreds of millions. I think we're well above $2.5 billion of investments in New Mexico's public education system, including salary increases, professional development, housing, support, and pay, earn while you learn, and free college for educators. Frankly, free college for every New Mexican, 2-year, 4-year, full-time, part-time. So really embracing that education's the key to our state's overall success. Secretary, I'm going to need your help and advice because these are all permissive programs. They're not mandatory programs. Far too many of New Mexico schools aren't doing extended learning. 2, high-dose tutoring. We're also seeing, as you've indicated, incredible results. And we are seeing in 1 year, taking folks below grade level in math, and not only being at grade level at the end, but being another grade ahead and moving quicker, frankly, than we thought they would in math and related subjects. So really leaning in on STEM. Again, we've got far too many schools who are failing to actually do the high dose tutoring, even when we embed ourselves in schools. We are also now in this legislative session, we're asking for $60 million for structured literacy. We've mandated that every institution of higher education that does teacher preparation, teacher education, they had to change their curriculum. I think we gave them about 8 days that they had to teach the science of reading to all of their students, or we would take away their accreditation. I'm really, as you can hear in my voice, it's not fair to New Mexico families or students that this is where we are. We retrained every educator in New Mexico, K through 4th grade, in structured literacy. We're seeing incredible results from that. And for the first time ever in the state's history in elementary school, we're seeing increases, 5% and above, in reading proficiency for Native American students. It's never happened. But again, all of our schools are not embracing structured literacy. We're going to put together an institute. We're going to fund it at $30 million. And this summer, I'm going to do structured literacy intervention for at least 10,000 students in New Mexico. We are also going to do sort of a high dose tutoring, but is more systemic in public education by taking our underperforming schools, and we're going to embed at least $30 million into coaches into each of those schools for a complete turnaround. And we're also asking the legislature to fund now in a more mandatory setting, at least 180 days of classroom time. So here's the other side. I know these work. They're powerful tools. We were able to demonstrate that they work because of this administration, because of the evidence-based efforts you are making to improve access and outcomes for students and families all across America. But I could use some help getting schools to really understand the value. Kids will come to school. They'll stay in school. Teacher satisfaction will go up. Behavior challenges will go down. All the things that we know, it is going to be hard work to accelerate learning and to deal with the gaps related to COVID and a number of other aspects. But if we really lean into the leadership of this administration and we can engage our educators and our public school system to just hang in there and do that extra work, we're going to create a state-of-the-art, world-class education system, bar none, that's the best in the world. And certainly that's my goal for the country, definitely my goal for the state. But it has been harder than it ought to be to get everybody on the same page dedicated to improved outcomes and well-being for New Mexico students. And I appreciate that I still got an invitation to this incredible panel. And I want to do everything that I can to create better partnerships that really focus on outcomes for kids in New Mexico.
Thank you so much, Governor Luann Grisham. And I know your fighting spirit on this issue, so grateful. And really, one of the reasons why we've called this together and developed this agenda is so that we can be a partner with you to really drive that message to every school system that we all have a responsibility to educate our kids, and this is and ensure that they're successful. And this is a roadmap to do it. So really appreciate your leadership and you being with us today. Thank you.
And I want to do one more shout out just to the secretary and to how effective this agenda is. In a small, one of the poorest schools with a very diverse population, but again, a high concentration of tribal students. Who's been one of the poorest performing schools in New Mexico for decades. Embraced extended learning, community schools, structured literacy, attendance strategies and supports before and after school programs. And they had a 26% increase in 1 year in student outcomes.
Wow.
That's amazing.
26. So I know your efforts and expertise works on the ground anywhere and everywhere. And if we can find incentives and other tools that create a feeling of support, there's no reason why every New Mexico school can't see the same set of outcomes. And that in and of itself will help us deal with chronic absenteeism. So I thank you again for your time today, and I'm looking forward to continue to be a stalwart partner in our efforts.
Amen, sister.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Governor. And count us in. We'll follow up with you very soon. Check the flights to see how quickly we can get over there to work together, lock arms on behalf of the students. Thank you for your leadership and for your participation here today. Appreciate your time.
Thank you, Secretary.
Thank you. You know, we talk a lot about partnership, and we all hear it takes a village. It really does. And I always say if we do what we've done, we're going to get what we've gotten. We have to look at this as an opportunity to really level up. And one of those things that we heard from the governor there, and Governor Moore, you mentioned earlier, is partnership. So I'm going to turn to you, Governor Moore, and ask you a question about that. What does that look like in Maryland? What advice would you have as we think about not going back to what it was, but how do you double down on partnerships? And what have you done to really make it that whole, it takes a village, we all own this work? What did it look like in Maryland?
You know, I think part of the thing that we tried to do when we came on board is we were very clear that we needed everybody, and we were going to go everywhere to go get that advice and counsel. That this was not something that we as a state government or as an administration were going to solve alone. And it really does go back to that idea and that concept of, you know, the people who are closest to the challenges are the ones who are closest to the solutions. They're just hardly ever at the table. And how do we change that dynamic to know that not only do they have a vote, but a voice? And so we were just very intentional about going to communities and going to individuals to see where the solutions were the things that were working, and then how could you then uniquely use the power of state government and frankly the budget of state government to be able to bring these things to a larger sense of scale. I think about some of the work that we were doing around apprenticeship programs and trade programs, and where we've been very clear, and Neera, you mentioned it earlier, where I'm very proud of the fact that we have some of the best four-year colleges in the country in the state of Maryland, and we are going to support our four-year colleges. I also know that we have to end this myth that every single one of our students need to attend one of them in order to be economically successful. Right? It's just not true. And it's handicapping oftentimes the genius of so many of our kids by telling them that there is a one-size-fits-all, the way we're defining excellence. And it's not true. And I remember a visit that we took to a place called Western Tech over in Baltimore County. And, I say Western Tech is one of the most successful high schools I think that we have inside of the state of Maryland. Its college attendee rate for the students there, I think it hovers around 60%. And people's like, but, so how is that a successful high school? I said, because do you know the success rate for the students that end up finishing over at Western Tech in terms of either being in higher education or being gainfully employed, oftentimes gainfully employed, making $60,000, $70,000, $80,000 a year? It's 100%. It's remarkable how they have been able to crack that code and be able to unearth that genius for each and every one of their students. And so our ability to be able to get out of Annapolis and be very intentional about how we're working with the private sector, how we're working with nonprofits, how we're working with community groups, how we're working with people who are on the ground, how we work in partnership with the federal government, to be able to identify best practices, make sure those are the things that are getting funded, and then making them scale in our state, I think has been a key ingredient to our long-term success.
That's powerful. That's powerful. That saying, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. I heard from you intentionality about bringing people together and scalability, making sure that you scale it up. Thank you. Thank you for your leadership, for your participation. Really appreciate it. Yeah. And, talking about folks that are leading this work and bringing people together, it's my pleasure to introduce the other folks on our panel here today. Who are doing the work along with superintendents, school leaders, educators in the classrooms and in the buildings. We have with us Charlene Russell Tucker, the Commissioner of Education for the Connecticut State Department of Education. Welcome. Dr. Christina Grant, the State Superintendent of Education for the Office of the State Superintendent of Education for the District of Columbia. Welcome. And Dr. Eric Mackey, State Superintendent of Education, Alabama State Department of Education. Welcome. Thank you for being here. So we're going to have a series of questions. The first question is going to be for you, Charlene, and then Neera will jump in and continue. Look, we worked together for years in Connecticut, and now you're the Commissioner of Education. You've always had a focus on ensuring chronic absenteeism is a focus at the Department of Education. You've done great work with attendance work. Hetty Chang has to be proud because you really recognize how important it is to address chronic absenteeism. What have you done to continue to make that a priority in Connecticut? What results are you seeing? And what message would you have for other leaders that are thinking about how to address chronic absenteeism?
So Secretary Cardona, thank you. It's a pleasure to be here with you today and my colleagues here. Director Tandon, thank you for the invitation. And Secretary Cardona, you are correct. Chronic absence is an issue that we really have to pay attention to. When we think about the non-academic barriers to learning, that's one that looms large. I always say attendance is a precursor to engagement, which is a precursor to learning. And so we've got to be able to work on that together. And so in Connecticut, recognizing how important this is for academic success, we basically started using the data to kind of chart the course. And it became, it's important that we were working on this because let me just share just a little bit with you. Prior to the pandemic, our chronic absence rate was as low as 9%, and that's about 50,000 for 500,000 students in the state. That was a call to action that was important then, as you mentioned, because we recognize that if you're not there, right, you're not benefiting from even the brilliant teachers that may be in the classroom. During the pandemic, however, we saw statewide chronic absence rates jump to 12% in 1920, 19% in 2021, and the rate continued to grow in 21-22 to 24%. So now we went from 50,000 students to about 117,000 students. That was a call to action. And then we also disaggregated that data. So as you're hearing, data matters. We need to know what's truly happening. And we recognize our students experiencing homelessness, 57%. Then we look at our multilingual learners and students with special education and eligible for free reduced price meals, 34%. Then we look at the grade bands and we recognize the levels were spiking for those in high school. And you're right, Governor, and the governor mentioned earlier that even at the younger ages, we see that as an issue right now. So the rapidly increasing levels that we were experiencing meant we needed urgency of action. So what did we do? You've heard from governors today. Thank you to our governor in Connecticut, Governor Lamont, that he invested some of that GEAR funding, millions of that, to a new program that we launched, the Learner Engagement and Attendance Program called LEAP. Now, what is LEAP? Being funded, it's a research-based home visiting program that identifies and partners with families to improve student attendance and family engagement. It builds on the partnership that the governor just talked about that is so important that we have key partners in this work. LEAP home visitors, who can be teachers or trained community partners, I call them trusted messengers, serve as connectors to families to services. They are building support and building a trust in relationships, finding a shelter, a translator to explain school policies, connecting a parent to reliable transportation, options to mental health services. These tasks are done by our home visitors to build that relationship with the overall goal of getting students back to school on a regular basis. So what have we seen? It's kind of the so what, you've done this work. Since the pandemic, and thanks in part to the LEAP program, our chronic absence rates in Connecticut has declined from the 24% I mentioned to 20% in 22-23. Approximately 18,000 more students attending school regularly. And we also do, and we look at the data on a monthly basis at the state level. Data for the month of October showed a 17.8% as the chronic absence rate. And this is continuing to show really good progress across the state. So we're really thrilled that we've been able to do that, and specifically about LEAP. So we got it evaluated because COVID also let us know we need to know the impact of our ESSER investments. And so we launched a research collaborative using our higher ed institutions in the state of Connecticut. So we had it evaluated so we could answer the so what. For students in middle and high school grades, students on average, this is our LEAP program, showed a 16 percentage point improvement in attendance 6 months after their home visit. And so we're really thrilled to be able, there are other impacts as well. We hear from home visitors that it's improving school-family relationships, it's improving student engagement, it's improving access to resources for families. All the things we know are so important for the family to be supported so the students can actually be in school and be supported there as well. And we are training, there are districts that are funded in order to do that work, but we're now we've trained over 2,000 folks who are doing this across districts of learning. We call it our LEAP 101 training. Pleased to say that there's over 30 states that are, other states that are already a part of that training. And we've heard finally directly from families. And so we have a School is Better with You attendance campaign that's a part of all the things that we're doing. We surveyed over 5,000 families, and we did the survey in Spanish and in English. I know you'd appreciate that. And this is what families are telling us as to why students were not coming to school. Families share that they kept students home due to, and you can guess this, illnesses, but also family obligations, mental health stress, and the need for connection with school staff who speak their language. So the feedback also helps us in shaping our awareness campaign and inform our system that is really so important. This work of attendance is one, Partnerships Governor matters. This is not a silo sport. You do not do this alone. We've got to get our school districts, our state agency leading, our school districts at the table, our partners, community partners at the table, as you've heard, to do this work. It is so important. Without that, nothing else that we put in place will give us the results that we need.
Thank you so much. And I love how you mentioned the universities have a role too, to help evaluate what's working, what's not working. So those federal dollars that are being used and the governor puts toward that are showing a good return on investment. Awesome. Thank you for sharing that.
A big focus for all of us is to ensure that we're using data across the board about, and when it comes to tutoring, what kids need help, who needs after school, who needs summer school. So we're using resources most effectively. So thank you for that as well. I'd like to ask you, Dr. Grant, in your work in DC, the District of Columbia, where my kids went to public school all the way through, School Without Walls, and,
great school.
and Jackson Reed. DC implemented a district-wide tutoring initiative, and I wonder if you could share what's your approach to expanding those programs and how do you ensure they're high quality?
Well, first, I have to come with the spirit of tremendous gratitude. And we all should just ground ourselves quickly on just how far we've come. We are in this room together with colleagues. You know, most folks don't know, commissioners don't see each other every day. And so we run into each other's arms and we're covering everything from the weather to, I was like, I'm so sorry your flight was delayed. But just tremendous gratitude for your leadership, for this administration, at this time. When I think about the fact that I'm a daughter of blue-collar workers, I told everyone, every decision I made during COVID was in the reality of the fact that if I were 10 and this were happening, I would be home by myself. And my mama would have said, don't answer the phone, don't open the door, get on the computer and learn. And for thousands of children across this country and thousands of families, they trusted our leadership to guide them through something none of us had ever seen. And now here we are today. When we stepped into the role and we received just tremendous resources right on time, right at the right moment, two things were front of mind. Well, we have to get our schools back, we have to get our kids back in school, we have to make sure we're navigating safety, their health, their wellness, but we also have to get to the critical work of teaching and learning. And that's how we ended up with tutoring, because we've always known that if a child needed a little bit more, they had an extra question, those who had access to resources could have a tutor. And so I'm so thankful for the resources that myself, my colleagues, governors can say, we didn't put $100,000 toward this initiative. In Washington, D.C., we made a $35 million investment in high-impact tutoring. And our theory was simple. We have roughly 100,000 children in the district. We wanted to ensure that 10% of our students in our neediest schools, so the integration of data, our own accountability system, told us which schools, down to which children, would have access to one-on-one, small group learning based around their learning and their needs. Because you can't, you can't accelerate learning without calling out the fact that children need more time. They need to ask questions. Any of you who have taught, they need to be able to be in safe spaces where they're encouraged to say, actually, I didn't quite get that. Can you read it again? Can we add again? And then it was our job as a state education agency to bridge the gap between what is happening in practice and what is happening in policy. And so we got to work. One thing we learned, which my colleagues will note, we cannot show up at a school and launch a high-impact tutoring initiative. And so you spoke of partnership, Governor Moore, and it's so critical. We brought on a series of what we call strategic support partners, launched City Tutor in Washington, D.C., leveraged grant dollars directly to providers who met our definition of high-impact tutoring, was open and willing to engage in real-time research. So we were doing evidence-based research practices in real time, and worked with a range of partners. And so I'm proud to say that high-impact tutoring exists in over 100 school sites, 80 community organizations, and we have partners throughout the district, including George Washington and American University, where college students are getting safe access to teaching. So we're hoping to solve some pipeline issues. We already have several teachers who have said, oh, I came in tutoring 2 years ago and I decided I liked it. We were like, yes, join us. And we also worked within our schools. So in our at-risk schools, we sat with our principals and said, what do you need to make this work? And if you've ever run a school, touching the school schedule is, I mean, it's worse than a snow day. And what we realized was it wasn't that they didn't want to do the work. They actually needed to be in a safe space, even as a principal, to say, who can help me make this work? And so in our at-risk schools, our neediest schools, we fund HIT managers. They function very much like assistant principals. They look at the master schedule. They look at the data of the students. They are the ones pulling together the groups. They are the ones saying, no, you can't go to lunch. You have to come sit here. We're making sure that we didn't just tell teachers and principals, hey, do this extra thing. We wrapped a lot of partnership, support, guidance, and in real time, we're able to tell them, oh, we're moving the needle. Oh, we have to pivot in this direction. Don't just stand up the grant in the same way. How do we bring new people to the table? Really quickly, aside from metrics that I know are critically important, I can say as we sit here today that we are going to exceed our target of serving 10,000 students. We will serve over 13,000 students. That's exciting. I can say that we saw growth in every single one of our schools on our assessments this year. And we know that students who have access to tutoring, they will meet their growth goals faster. But I can also tell you that 94% of our students who have access to tutoring said that they felt safer at school. They had a trusted adult that they could go talk to. And 81% of our students said that they came to school for their tutor. And so when we think about the themes of this conversation, it is the accelerated learning, but it's the child coming alive as a learner. And we're so proud of the work. I know that I have talked long, but I do want to end where I began, with a tremendous sense of thanks. Your urgency around not giving in to complacency, I would not be sitting here for not individuals who made big investments in my education. And it is our rally cry. Like, this is our moment to get it right for all of the children in this great country. And we have evidence in DC and in Connecticut and in America, all across this country, on what's possible. And it's under your leadership and under the Biden-Harris administration that you all are making deep investments in our children, and this will bear fruit for us. And so thank you for letting me be here.
Oh, awesome. Thank you.
That was really, really well said. Look, it is a moment for us. It is a moment to say, yeah, schools are open, lights are on. Are we going to be satisfied with what it was before? And we can't be. We heard about chronic absenteeism and what efforts are being done in Connecticut. We heard from you about how high-impact tutoring is supporting the core instruction, which is key. And now we want to hear a little bit about summer programming and what can be done there. So we have Dr. Eric Mackey from Alabama. We're so happy you're here. Thank you for coming. You've done a lot of work in Alabama to increase summer learning and to boost and accelerate learning. What made your program evidence-based and so successful, and what are you doing to sustain it into the coming years?
Well, thank you, Mr. Secretary. It's good to be here today. And it's good to be with my colleagues. As Superintendent Grant said, you know, we enjoyed just a few minutes before we got to come up here on stage just to compare, and what we find is, of course, students are students and parents are parents, and all parents want what's best for their children, and all of us want what's best for those children. Governor Moore, thank you for your great comments and inspirational comments earlier this afternoon. So our summer learning program, we're very excited about. It really is a matter of having a vision and then the resources coming along at the right time. So we had a vision for doing summer reading camps, summer math camps in Alabama. And when I came in as superintendent in 2018, we launched a very small program. I mean, a very small program as in it touched a few hundred children. But we knew it worked. And we knew that training the teachers and getting good instructional coaches in there to work with them in the summer and then getting the children to school, which means providing them meals, providing them transportation, providing them high-quality instructors who are ready to bring students in, not just redoing what you did in the school year, but offering something really special. And you heard me say summer and reading math camps. We don't even like to talk about it as summer school. We talk about camps because we want students to come in and have a different kind of experience. And we've been able to sustain this now for 3 years, and the ARPA funds are going to push us one more year. I've already been able to take this back to our state and say, look, this is working. And so our state legislature is coming in a couple of weeks, but I have a great interest and a lot of excitement in our Governor Kay Ivey, and the legislative leadership in saying, yeah, we know we have to find a way to sustain this with state funds even after the ARPA funds go away after this next summer. So I want to share some of the numbers. We went from, they talk about 0 to 100. So we went from 0 to 30,000 students in K-3. We have about 720,000 students in all of our K-12 schools. So when you look at just those K-3 where we're really focusing, about 15% of our students have participated in summer reading camps. Summer math camps a little bit further behind. We had about 10,000 students who participated in summer math camps this year. But in every grade level, K1, 2, 3, we measure, and all of them saw growth, between 3% growth and up to 7 or 8% growth in reading. And in mathematics, we saw up to 12% growth in students who came and participated in a high-quality summer camp. And so what it tells us is we just have to get those students there and give them these extra opportunities. We are talking about students who are already struggling. Some of them are below grade level. Some of them are not quite below grade level, but either their principal, their teacher, or their parents said, I think my students still need some extra help in the summer. And so we want to bring them in and give them those opportunities. But particularly, we've focused on those students who are below grade level, need that extra help. And it just shows that it works. You have to get them there. You have to give them the opportunity, give them the right instruction. And I do want to make the connection, too, to attendance. So getting them there is important. We've provided extra funds for transportation. So we go out, that's really hard to do, especially in the summer, to pick up students in rural areas and in the cities too, but especially in the rural areas. But we have about 75% attendance in summer reading camps. And we think that's pretty good. We'd like to have 100%, but it is summer, and so some of these families do take off a day or two here or there, and they don't necessarily come every day. We're working on that because we really know that if it works, you got to have students. You can't produce gaps. Students have to be there every day to make it work. We're working with community partners. We've done extensions in the afternoons. So the summer reading camps, most of them, they end with lunch. And then many parents say, well, you can't just bring my student back home. Now, I need something for my child to do in the afternoon. So we work with Boys and Girls Clubs, YMCAs, to provide extra opportunities in the afternoons. And it really is working. And as I said, it's working so well, we've built enough momentum that our legislature has said, we know we can't drop this. We have to find a way to continue to fund it and sustain it going forward.
That's fantastic.
That's fantastic. I would like to say, as the Secretary noted, I mean, the beauty of what you're doing is that you've built a program, you've shown it's effective, and even when we have fewer federal resources in the future, it's sustainable on its own. So that's really remarkable. And I guess I would just say here that we've learned a lot from 3 amazing leaders in very diverse states using effective strategies focused on absenteeism, after school, summer learning, high dosage tutoring, and then also, of course, have understood from the governor how it actually takes a partnership, a strategy with parents, where parents really understand that the school, the state, the local leaders are partners with them. I think that's really vital for all of us to understand and really welcome. This has been a fantastic conversation, really demonstrated why if these leaders can implement these strategies, that it's with the Department of Education behind it and the administration, we can really accelerate the performance of students across the country. So I just want to say how grateful I am, and on behalf of the White House, how we're grateful for your participation and your leadership in developing these programs heretofore, but obviously what you're going to do for kids going forward.
That's right. I just want to say, you know, first of all, Nira, thank you. Thank you for your passion here, for providing this stage, literally, to elevate the importance.
Some other people are involved in the staging, just to be clear.
To elevate the importance of academic recovery in this country. I know the president believes this, and the fact that we were able to convene, thank you to your team and the team at the Department of Education. To the panelists, thank you for your passion. Thank you for bringing the stories here of what you're doing, because it works. Those dollars help children, and they've been helping children. I'm gonna be very brief because I know we're at time, but I just wanna say two quick things. Recovery is the beginning. It's the bottom level. We need to raise the bar in education in this country, number one. And number two, let's get to work. Let's get to work. We're gonna get to work together, but let's get to work. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.